In today's task, we'll be talking about the BIB interface and how you will approve and manage your volunteers through this interface. You will find that using an interface like this will save you a ton of time, as nothing has to really be typed in. You'll just simply manage the list of pending volunteers. And so we're going to start by looking at how you will work through the processing of these pending volunteers. We'll go to the Volunteers tab and then to the background interface. Now, as your volunteers put their applications into the system, if they are at a level that requires a sex offender check or a background check, those folks will end up in this pending list into the background interface, and this is how you'll push those through that list. And so I wanted to point out a couple of things here. Depending on how you have your levels set up, now if you approve all of your volunteers through the background interface and require background checks for everybody, this won't apply to you. But if you have volunteers who maybe at a level 1 only require a sex offender check, then you'll actually not submit these through the interface. You can simply do your sex offender check. Like you can see, this volunteer has needed for the sex offender check but does not need a criminal background check. So if those are the case, you will simply use the drop down arrows to approve those volunteers. So you just simply do an approve here, and you'll see this little pending change, and you will just confirm the changes. Now any change you make on this screen like this, you need to confirm the changes to make that change stay. So I'm actually going to confirm the changes and click OK, and that volunteer is now approved and will get the email for that approval. Next, we'll look at the volunteers who need a background check submitted. So I can look, for example, at this Casey Clark, who needs a criminal background check and a sex offender check. So these are the folks that have needed and needed listed in this area that will need to be submitted through the background check. Now you'll notice on this one is actually an expired one, so they have had a previous background check. So when your volunteers you have your number of days set to expire, when they expire or the background check expires, they will get a note. They'll be set in a status that's called pending renewal, and they will actually renew their information and then will come back into this list. So anybody you see in this list is either a new volunteer that needs to be submitted. So if I look down here, I can see for Stan Louder, this is not an expiration. This is a first-time volunteer that's ready to be submitted, versus one that has had a previous background check and the background has expired. So in either case, if they need a criminal background check, you're going to you don't use these drop-down items for that. You're just simply going to submit the background using this Submit BG button. So I'm going to click on that. This will take you to a BIB screen. You will simply choose your volunteer package, which may be different than this, and you may have more than one. And so you're going to choose the volunteer package that you need to submit for this volunteer, and then just click yes to submit the order now. Now once you've done that, that's all you need to do from the standpoint of this volunteer. And within just a few minutes, you'll notice this one turns yellow, so I can see that I have done that, because it takes a few minutes for BIB to send a response back to the volunteer tracker, and then this will update to either a submitted or a received and processing on the status here. So you'll be able to see that, and you will wait and leave these in the list until you see a status that says corporate review. Corporate review means that the report is back from BIB, and you will simply click on the BG report button to see that update. And I'll show you an example of what that's going to look like. So once I click on that BG report button, I can see that in this case, this is fully completed. The status is Corp Review, which means that it is completed. And then you will simply click to choose either the applicant meets the guidelines or does not meet the guidelines. So this is a denial. If you do a does not meet guidelines, that will come back into the volunteer tracker and deny the volunteer. If you say the applicant meets guidelines and you simply click on the change button, you have to give that a few minutes, but within a few minutes we'll get a response back from BIB into the volunteer tracker, and the volunteer will automatically go to an approved status. So once you've approved that, they will update in this list and come back as an approved within a few minutes. So you just need to wait on those to process through the interface to come back and go to an approved status. So once the volunteer is approved, they'll get the approval emails, or if they're denied, they'll get whatever denial email if you have set one up in the volunteer tracker. Once your volunteers are approved through the interface, they will actually be automatically removed from the background interface list, but you can now find those volunteers in the all volunteers list. So I'm going to go to the all volunteers, and you can search for that volunteer by last name or by email and click filter and search the volunteers. There's more information in the video here about how to do that, but do know that once your volunteer is either approved or denied, they will no longer show in the interface. These are only ones that are in progress that still need some work done on. They're either waiting to be submitted or waiting for the report to come back from BIB. I wanted to mention a few other things to watch for in the background interface. I've marked a few of these so you can see this. If a volunteer indicates that they are an employee, if you ask this question on your volunteer application, there will be an indicator in the background interface that says employee, and you will see the green check mark. So if this person is an employee and thus has already had a background check and doesn't need to be background checked, you can manually approve them, and that's the only time you use these drop downs. If you are needing to manually approve a volunteer and not send them through the interface, then I can choose both of these to approved. So I've set both of those to approved and scroll to the top and confirm the changes, and that will approve the volunteer without sending them through the BIB interface. So that would be for employees, so you can keep an eye for that here as well. The second area is students. If someone is under 18, you will see an under 18 indicator here. If they've indicated they are a student, you will also see a green check mark here as well. Now, of course, this is coming from the volunteer. Whether they're an employee or whether they're a student is based on what they are saying in the application. So you want to verify that for sure. But again, you can decide what to do with those if you're depending on what your policy is for someone under 18. If you want to go ahead and send them through the interface, you can still submit them. If you want to manually approve them, if you do not do background checks for students under 18, then again you could just simply choose approved for both of those drop downs and then confirm changes at the top. So that's just something that you'll want to keep an eye on. One other note I wanted to mention is the links that are in the BG report buttons for somebody that you look at the report for. So let's say this person that's in corporate review and you click on the BG report button. Just note that that link for security purposes will only work one time. Now, if you wait another, say, 15 minutes, BIB will send us a new link and then you can look at the report again. So if you ever get a message that the link is not valid, it may be because if you click on it and go into it, come out, and then go right back into it, the link may not work. It'll take another 5 to 15 minutes for that for BIB to send us a new link so that you can go into it again. So sometimes that may be the case if you're reviewing one and there have issues on the background report and you want to not make a decision. So if you click on the BG report to look at the report and decide not to say it meets guidelines or doesn't meet guidelines yet, you want to leave it out there for somebody to review, you just can close out of that and come back, and this will sit here until you make that decision. But if you go back into it, say within 5 minutes, that link may not work again. But if you'll let it sit for 15 minutes or so, they will send us a new link and you'll be able to go in and view the report again. So I just wanted to mention that in case you run into that situation. And so this is a really simple process to do from this list. So let me just review again. If I look further down the list of the volunteers, this Pat Preston is in corporate view. That means it's ready for us to click on the BG report and make a decision for meets guidelines or does not meet guidelines. The next two in the list, Nancy Smith and Tanya Tucker, are new volunteers who need to be submitted through the interface. I can tell that because I have a Submit BG button and I don't have any update statuses from the background interface. So you'll want to check this list pretty much every day and determine if you need to take action on the volunteers. So probably once a day should be plenty, just to go in, submit any new ones, review any that are in corporate review. And that's really all there is to the interface. So you see there's no rekeying anything. There's no, really just a couple of click buttons, and you can send these folks through the interface. And as always, if you need help with this or you have questions about one, or one seems to hang up and not come back with an update, you can click on the support and training links, and you can either create a support ticket, or you can chat with our friendly folks in the App Garden Support Center. So we hope you'll enjoy using this, and it should be a really big time saver for you guys from the Volunteer Tracker. Thank you.